Hello children, and welcome back to episode 3 in my gang overview for the new Warhammer Necromunda Skirmish 2026. Today we're going to be looking at the new book, The Gangs of the Outlands. Now, I've already been through all of the 6 house gangs. We did Enforcers, Venators and Corpse Grinders. Those are the gangs of the Underhive. These, however, are officially the gangs of the Outlands, which means that they don't exist in the Underhive, apparently. Shout out to Little Blue Dragons in North Sydney for the hookup on these 2 books. Fantastic books, by the way. Everything you need to play any of these gangs in the new rules of Necromunda. And then I imagine each of these gangs will be expanded upon with their journals. So we've already seen advertised the journals for Escher and Goliath, which build extra stuff on top of these gangs. Now, the first gang we're going to look at today is the Outcast gang. Now, I was really concerned with this new edition that we would get a lot of the gangs getting in the bin. There's actually only been one gang that is missing from this new edition, and that is the Bad Zone Enforcers, which have been actually confirmed to have a journal at some point in the near future. The Outcasts and the Venators are 2 that I expected to go. Honestly, I thought Mousetrain might go. Well, you know, we'll talk about those later. The Outcasts and Venators specifically, I thought they're not going to survive this cut. They have, though. Hats off to Games Workshop, and Venators are still brilliant, as you'll see in my last video. Outcasts have remained somewhat unchanged as well. Now, what the difference is between an Outcast and a Venator gang, if you're new to Necromunda, Outcasts are a gang of absolute riffraff, scum, dirtbags from the Underhive. Very, very average dudes, peasants, in effect, led by a particularly strong and enigmatic leader. Now, that can look like a lot of different things, and there's lots and lots of options for building a fluffy, narrative, awesome gang with, you know, a really, really strong leader leading a bunch of mooks. The Venators, on the other hand, are much more elite, and every fighter in their gang is a bounty hunter, and there's still room for lots of narrative fluff and stuff, but they're just different to Outcasts. Outcasts are like slightly more hoardy, with a really good leader. Venators are, you know, much more elite generally. So if you play Outcast, the special rule for an Outcast gang is as follows: Cult of Personality. In fact, you've got 2 special rules here, by the way. Cult of Personality means that all Outcast fighters within 6 inches of the gang's leader automatically pass any nerve checks they need to make and are unaffected by fearsome as a trait in general. The next special rule is slightly different in the way that you would build an Outcast gang. Instead of the usual sort of half of your gang needs to be not hangers-on, brutes, and what was the other one? Champions. Now, however, you've got to have 3 Outcast Hive Scum on the gang roster for each Outcast champion. So 3 Hive Scum for each champion. More than fair. Now, in terms of skills, it does depend on the archetype you choose for each fighter. We'll get into that in a bit more detail shortly, but skills are very, very customizable in an Outcast gang. Now, here's where things get extra fun, because you can elevate a fighter to a leader in an Outcast gang. What that means is you've got rules here that we're going to go through in a second for generic somewhat Outcast leaders in an Outcast gang. So profiles that you can pick and pay for here, but you can also take any single fighter that has a profile in the rules for Necromunda, meaning you could have a leader that is a sump croc, you could have a leader that is a bone picker, for example. You could take any profile, pay the cost for it, and that is your leader. They gain all the leader's special rules for an Outcast gang as well. They retain any skills and stuff that they come with, and that is your leader. This means that you could also take Dramatis Personae, bounty hunters, hangers-on, things like that as well, and it's really, really cool and flavorful. You can even swap out the skills and equipment and stuff, but you still have to pay the original cost for the fighter, so you'd be losing out if you did that, but you can do it if you wish. Now on to affiliation. There are 4 different types of affiliations that an Outcast gang must be. You can choose one of the following. You've got the clanless Outcast gangs. What this means is you're not affiliated to any clan or gang and don't have any real background. You're just a bunch of outlaws, basically. And what you get for being a clanless gang is that you get to you get extra TP, basically. So at gang creation, each leader and champion in a clanless Outcast gang gains an additional 1 TP that may be spent on weapons and war gear. So when you're founded, you get an extra access to the trading post than you would normally. Also, during each post cycle sequence, the first visit trading post cycle, you get an additional 1 TP as well. So more access to more stuff. If you are a clan house Outcast gang, gang, you get exactly what it sounds like. So your leaders and champions may pick one of the particular, 6 houses. So whether you're Cawdor, Goliath, Escher, etc., you pick one of those and your leaders and champions in your gang gets access to that house list. This also includes any pets and brutes as well, by the way, worth mentioning there. The next one is mutant outcast gangs, and this one's quite cool as well, and this has been included from the Apocrypha Necromunda as well. This just means that when your gang is founded, when you buy fighters, you can choose outcast mutations. If you're leaders and champs, I believe you get up to two outcast mutations, and if you are a ganger, you just get 1 mutation as well, and you buy them a bit like war gear. The last affiliation is the Aranthian affiliation, and this is quite new as well, and this was in one of the last books. What this means is your leaders and champs get access to the Aranthian list. So the Aranthian house list, which has some really unique and special equipment on it, that's the only bonus you get for those guys. Now, in terms of archetypes, what we mentioned before, when you buy a fighter for an outcast gang, no matter what they are, they get to choose an archetype. And this is basically the focus for their skills, okay? So the first one is Brawler, which means that they get Brawn and Combat as their sort of main primary skills. We've got Gunslinger, which of course is shooting as a primary. Mastermind, which is Savant and Agility. Survivor, which is Cunning and a little bit of Agility in there as well. And we've also got a Weird too, which means that they can take weird powers. Now, apart from elevating a fighter and taking a, giant rat as your gang leader, you can do the sort of generic thing and have one of 4 different fighter profiles worth 135 credits. We've got 4 different fighter profiles for a leader, and they're pretty damn cool. One of them is movement 7, by the way, with initiative 4, 2 attacks, 3 wounds, etc. And then you've got one that's super slow with movement 4 and toughness 4, things like that. So maybe a squat, perhaps. By the way, when you take these as well, they get access to the trading post worth of equipment TP4. So like a Venator has TP5 when you buy them, the Outcast leader gets TP4. So you can spend 4 trading points on their gear and equipment from the trading post. The Outcast champion has changed quite a bit. They're now quite a bit better as well, by the way, but they're also more expensive at 95 credits, 2 wounds, 2 attacks, and weapon skill and ballistic skill 3. No slouch at all, much, much better, and they get TP3. So again, they get to pick an archetype that goes along with their affiliation as well, depending on what that is, and they get TP3. So TP4 for the leader and TP3 for the champion. The last one is the Outcast Scum, and these guys have changed quite a bit as well. They're still terrible in terms of the stats at 30 credits, very cheap as well, but they also have the Specialist as well. So with the new rules, we get specializations, and there are 8 to choose from. So you can take a Scum Sniper, a Scum Medic, a Scum Brawler, etc., etc. A lot more flavor and a lot more fun. These guys were, of course, very boring before, and you couldn't really do a lot with them. Now, though, you can do all sorts of things with the Outcast mutations as well, and of course these specializations. When an Outcast Hive Scum is purchased, they do not get trading post access, by the way. Instead, they get the Outcast equipment list, which is very, very meager, I have to say. Auto gun, auto pistol, stub gun. We've got things like chain axes and chain swords, which is nice. Lots of primitive weapons, a few grenades, grenade launcher, las gun, las pistol, throwing knives, etc. Not much more than that, though. If you've taken the Aranthian sort of background as your gang as well, your leaders and champs, not the Scum, however, can take the Aranthian equipment as well, Aranthian equipment, which is things like the 7-pointed breastplate for 120 credits. We've got the Conduit of Azostium and the Aranthian Power Fist at 115 credits as well. All sorts of cool stuff in here. Aranthian Pattern Melter Gun as well. I'll talk over these in a second, but those are just your leaders and champs if you're an Aranthian gang. And on that note, one of the Aranthian weapons here, the Aranthian Pattern Power Fist, is Strength +3, -3 AP, Lethality 3, Breaching 5+, Concussive 5+, Damage 2, and Unwieldy. In terms of the war gear for Aranthians as well, the 7-pointed breastplate, as I just mentioned, increases your save by 1. Nice and simple and pretty good too. Mutations, there are less of them than there were before. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 now. Wing Membranes is one of them for 20 credits. You get to automatically pass agility tests to leap distances up to their movement characteristic, and when testing to jump down. You don't get flight, unfortunately. Extra appendage here, though, is also 20 credits, and you increase your attacks characteristic by 1, and in addition, they may be equipped with 4 weapons rather than 3, so that one's pretty nice. So all in all, Outcasts in a really good position, actually, and better than before. There is no mention of taking an Outcast led by a delegation, so a guild delegation. I'm sure that will come up in an errata because I'd like to think that's still a thing, having maybe a corpse harvesting party as your sort of leadership group in this. But alliances are still in the game, so I guess we'll wait and see on that one. But overall, I think Outcast's in an even better place, really, with more options, particularly through those specializations. Outcast still as fun and flavorful as before, and, we've probably got less Dramatis Personae to choose from because I think only the ones that actually got models will be in that PDF, but I could be wrong there. And I'm sure there'll be more coming out in the future that you could choose from. Slave Ogrins, now known as free Ogrins, they certainly have been freed from the shackles of being fairly crap as a gang in Necromunda. They are now really, really good. Free Ogrins are a gang of, Ogrins that used to be slaves, basically, and they are super, super tough, big, strong guys. And in the new rule set, I think this really favours them quite well. Now, all leaders and champs in an Ogrin gang get the Juggernaut skill, by the way, which is a really, really good skill. It means that basically you aren't suppressed unless you're wounded. So the same as a Spira, really. It's pretty damn good. Now, of course, free Ogrins get access to Brawn as a primary, and that's pretty much it. Your leader also gets primary of combat. Everyone else is just Brawn, Brawn, Brawn. There are 4 different types of fighters in an Ogrin list. The first one is your Ogrin Overboss. At a whopping 180 credits, he is absolutely worth it with a movement of 5, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 5+, strength and toughness 5, wounds 3, initiative 4, which is not too bad, attacks 3, and a save of 5+. He's got mental stats that are leadership 8, so pretty good. Cool 9, which is very good. Willpower 7 and intelligence 6, of course, because these guys are absolute thickos. Now, if you want to take an augmetic weapon, which is on the sort of Ogrin house list, it's just, it's worth noting here that you can't get rid of an augmetic weapon. So when you take an augmetic weapon, it is attached to your body. You can't get rid of it. It's part of it, blah-de-da. But overall, the Ogrin Overboss with the Juggernaut skill is really, really scary and very hard to put down, particularly in close combat, as coup de gracing a guy who's strength 5 now is bloody hard. The Ogrin Underboss and Champion in the mix here, 155 credits and very, very similar with another 3 wounds, strength and toughness 5. Just very, very good. He's only got 2 attacks and his initiative is 3, but otherwise he's exactly the same, really. Just not quite as good as the leader. We've then got arguably the best name for any fighter in Necromunda. In fact, it is the best name, Stevedore. The Stevedore Ogrin, I think that's how you say it anyway, is the ganger. And there are 120 credits. What is a Stevedore, you ask? Well, one of my lovely gentlemen in the Discord told me that a Stevedore literally means someone who moves boxes, which I think is very, very cool. I haven't fact-checked that, but I think that's what it means. 120 credits. These guys are your ganger, and they are also a specialist. So you can take a brawler, Ogrin, which is, natural, I suppose. But you could also take a scout Ogrin and give them clamber. And that's exactly what I intend to do when I build an Ogrin gang. But, they are exactly what you'd imagine them to be. They're Ogrins. They're still movement 5, which is nice, by the way. They're not slow. Weapon skill 4+, ballistic skill 5+. So, shit at shooting, but it is what it is. Still strength and toughness 5. 2 wounds, initiative 3, attacks 2, and a 6-up save. I mean, it's a bloody good ganger, isn't it? Yes, it's 120 credits, and you could get 3 of these in most other, 3 gangers in most other gangs these cost, but it's an elite gang. What do you expect? And then lastly, we get the Lobo Ogrin. Now, this guy is actually a prospect now. The Lobo Slave, as they used to be known, were really, really good, dim-witted sort of Ogrins. They've changed them a little bit in this. They've still got terrible mental stats, so they've got a willpower, intelligence, and leadership of 4. They've got a cool of 8, though, which is pretty good. They're 100 credits, so they're your cheapest fighter. They are weapon skill 5+ and ballistic skill 6+. So they're also movement 4. So they're very slow. They're initiative 2, which makes them even slower. And they've got strength, toughness 5, wounds 2, and attacks 2 as well. So they can still occasionally hit stuff in close combat. But bear in mind that your weapon skill's 5 and your initiative's 2. So you're probably just going to get locked in combat with these guys and not be able to put them down. These are your meat shields. This is what you screen with. This is what you just put in people's faces and go, deal with this. He's not going to do you any damage, but he's going to be really, really annoying. Now, it's worth mentioning that the Stevedore, brilliant name, and the Lobo do not get the Juggernaut skill like you get on your leaders and champs. So they are going to become suppressed, and they're just generally going to be quite annoying, but you can't have a whole gang of leaders and champions, of course. So you're going to have to take some gangers, which you're going to, especially with that scout, I think, with Clamber. Very, very good, that one, not to be overlooked. And the Lobo, it's just a meat shield. There you go. Now, they have got a very limited selection of equipment. Again, they've got las cutters and storm welders, though, for shooting weapons. We've also got, arc welders, augmetic fists, and things like that as well. The augmetic fist is actually 15 credits, so incredibly cheap, but remember, you can't swap it out. Spudjackers, two-handed hammers, two-handed axes, and things like that too. We've also got all of the grenades, but the new grenade rules have nerfed them quite a bit. You can no longer have Ogryns chucking grenades 15 inches or whatever it is. It's now just the flat range, and also you can't just target an empty space either. You actually have to target the fighter, and their ballistic skill is crap. The Augmetic Fist, like I said, it's only 15 credits, and all it does, in fact, is give you knockback 6+. That is it. So it doesn't really do much. It's not really worth taking, to be honest. You're better off waiting to go to the trading post to give them something else. However, a Heavy Rock Cutter or a Heavy Rock Saw would be quite nice. Heavy Rock Cutter, strength +4, -4 AP, 2 lethality, and heavy and unwieldy. Nasty. Not really much to talk about on the Ogryn front. I think they're just really, really good now. I mean, they were good before, but they had some hard counters. I think now the fact that you've got Juggernaut on the leaders and champs, it means that they're not going to be suppressed. They're going to be getting in your face, and they've got decent initiative, decent movement. The gangers with clamber for scouts and stuff, I think will be a thing. It's a nice gang. You're not going to see the grenade spam that you saw on Ogrins before, but otherwise they are a lot better. They don't get a pet, but, the Lobo is basically a pet. So there you go. What do you think of Ogrins, guys? I know that they've always been, a favourite out there with people just for the sort of fluff and stuff, but they've always been a bit frustrating to play with. I think they're now going to be quite scary, to be quite honest, and certainly one of the winners in this edition, I would say. Genestealer Cults. Arguably one of the weakest gangs in the last edition of Necromunda. They had a bunch of things wrong with them. They had very low movement, for example. They had champions with 1 wound, which never got errated, even though everybody thought it was a mistake. They just weren't very good. They were very fun and fluffy, and everybody that likes Warhammer 40k likes Genestealers. I don't know a single person that doesn't like Genestealer Cultists. They're just flipping cool. But if you want to play a dedicated Genestealer Cultist gang in the new rules of Necromunda Warhammer Skirmish 26, these guys are one of the best gangs in the game now. Now, the special rule for Genestealer Cult gangs is that you get to apply a +1 modifier for coup de grace, which means that if you want to stab someone while they're down on the ground, like the Ogrins we mentioned earlier, it's a bit easier for Genestealer Cultists. You get to slit the throat of your enemy while they're on the ground. I like this. It's really cool and flavorful and just makes them a bit more nasty generally. Also, and here's where things get very good at the moment, and I do think that this will be errated at some point, an extra arm. Now, this option is available to some fighters in a Genestealer Cult gang and will be stated on the fighter's entry. A fighter with this ability treats the braced shot as a single action. The way that it's written raw means that you can do a lot of shenanigans with it, okay? It is really, really good. If you combine this with bulging biceps, etc., there is a lot of shenanigans that you can do with this, basically. You can move and do a shoot with a heavy weapon and then move again, if that makes sense. So you use your initiative to do a braced shot with a heavy weapon, right? What this means is that's now a single action. So you could use the initiative check, move, and then move again. So you could move out, shoot your heavy weapon, and then duck back into cover. Also, the third arm counts as an extra attack with rending 6+ as well. So you get an extra attack in close combat with rending too. Pretty nice. Now, in terms of skill access in a Genestealer Cult gang, typically you get Cunning and you also get a little bit of Savant in there as well. In fact, the spread of skills is pretty nice on secondaries and stuff, and you've got lots of different fighters to talk through here as well. Now, like before, there are 2 leader types you can take here, and before, one of them was definitely stronger than the other. Now I think, though, that the first one, the Genestealer Adept, is the absolute auto choice for me here. 120 credits, so cheaper. His wounds 3, his attacks 3, his initiative 4, his weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+ as well. However, he is movement 4, so he's a bit, a bit slower here. He is a weird, though, and you don't need to upgrade to get the weird. So 120 credits for a good fighter with good stats other than the movement and weird powers, and, of course, a willpower of 9 as well. So nice and high, the best psyker in the game so far. Now, he's a weird when you hire him, which means he gets to pick one of the Genestealer weird powers as his primary skill too. The Genestealer Alpha is the sort of close combat variant of the leader. He's not a weird, and he's 150 credits. He has initiative 4, 2 attacks, so less attacks than the Adept, which is a bit weird. Toughness 3, strength 4 though, weapon skill and ballistic skill 3+, and movement 5. So he's a bit quicker. He has slightly different mental stats as well, but he benefits from the extra arm. So he comes with an extra arm for free. That's baked into the cost of the 150 credits. So what you get there is a fighter that can do the whole shenanigans with the heavy weapons and stuff out of the box, basically. And he's also got that +1 extra attack as well. So his attacks 2 on his profile goes up to 3 with the extra arm. The Genestealer Hybrid Acolyte is the champion in this case, and they have been improved, thankfully. They are 85 credits and they now have 2 wounds. Woohoo! We can celebrate having a normal wounded champ on a Genestealer list. They're only movement 4 though, so they're very slow. Their weapon skill and ballistic skill 3+, strength and toughness 3, and initiative 4, which is pretty decent. They've only got 1 attack, however, and a 5+ save. In fact, the leader, by the way, both leaders have a 5+ save as well. These guys can, at the cost of +20 credits, also have the 3rd arm, and that's your champion. The Neophyte Hybrid is your ganger. They're 40 credits, and they've basically got the same stats as all the other gangers in the game, pretty much, except the mental stats. Cool is higher with a 7, intelligence is lower with a 5, typically on your average ganger. These are specialists, though, so you can take these guys and give them a specialization, whether it be a medic, a brawler, whatever, and we've got movement 4. So they are slower. They have okay stats otherwise, but they are slightly slower, and they have a 6-up save as well. Genestealer Aberrant is a ganger here as well. These do not have specialist, of course, and they come with starting XP 13. These are your gangers, so you can have as many of these as you like, really. There's no limit on them now, which is just brilliant. They come with the Unstoppable skill, which rules as written doesn't really work, because what Unstoppable does, if you're injured, you can't use your skill. So Unstoppable basically doesn't work when you're injured, meaning that you can't use Unstoppable. Does that make sense? It's fairly crap rules as written. It will be errated though. These guys are beefcakes though. They're movement 5, so a bit faster. Weapon skill 3+, strength and toughness 4, so like a baby Ogryn really. 2 wounds, initiative 2, which is terrible, and 2 attacks. But, you know, they're pretty damn good, really. There is also a caveat to them in that they can only take close combat weapons. They cannot take any ranged weapons, which is fair enough with a ballistic skill of 6. The Hybrid Initiate is your dedicated Juve now, or should I say prospect, not allowed to say that one. 20 credits, and these guys are typical Juves, really. They've got slightly higher cool, though, with a 6+. And again, you can make your prospect +20 credits, of course, so 40 credits for a 3rd arm. Not too bad. Genestealer Cults have a Brute now as well. Yes, you heard that right, a Brute, and that is the Genestealer Cult Abominant. This guy is 240 credits, is basically an Ogryn with 4 wounds and 3 attacks, and has weapon skill 3+ as well. A whopping 7 cool for a Brute is just pretty high too. 5+ save, and is just a nasty, nasty guy. Again with that problematic Unstoppable skill though. They come armed with a power sledgehammer, and that's it. The Psychic Familiar is 110 credits now, so certainly a lot more expensive than it was before. It does the same thing, has a leash range of 3 inches, but now basically the special rule for the Psychic Familiar, and the reason why it costs so much, now it's actually costed properly, is as follows. So it gets a 4+ invulnerable save to start with, and also it can sense bad fortune and forewarn their companion, giving them a flash of precognition. While they're within leash range of their owner has a 4+ invulnerable save. So it's simplified. It's not quite as good, but you get a 50-50 chance of just ignoring anything, basically. Pretty damn good, but I think for 110 credits, it's still worth it. It's still really, really good, because saves, you know, they're not as much of a thing in this game. There aren't as many pieces of armor and things that you can take in the game to give you a better save. It's pretty good. Also, the Psychic Familiar has Catfall and Clamber as inherent skills built in there as well. In terms of the equipment list, it's kind of exactly what you imagine, a cross between Orlock and mining gear, really. So you get all of the sort of mining stuff, you get 2-handed hammers and whatnot, power mauls, power picks, and power swords. You'll notice that the power pick is actually not in the trading post, but it is in the Genestealer Cult list as well. Genestealer Cult weird powers for your best Psyker in the game as well. You get Hypnosis, Unbreakable Will, Zealot, this is my personal favourite so far, and a new one. This is a continuous effect single, by the way. All friendly fighters within 9 inches of the Adept gain the Hatred Everything skill, meaning you can re-roll hit rolls, I believe, as well, which is pretty damn good if you're within 9 inches. You get Mind Control, Assail, and Force Wave as well, which are all variants of older weird powers. Now here's where things get interesting, because Genestealer Corrupted gangs are still a thing in Necromunda, which means that if you take another gang, and I think it's most gangs as well, by the way, all 6 house gangs as well as Palanite Enforcers, so 7 gangs can be Genestealer Corrupted. I love the fact that Enforcers can be corrupted as well. It makes absolute sense to me. And the effects of a Genestealer Cult corruption are as follows. This is during gang creation, by the way, so you don't have to pay anything for it, but what you get, the benefits and drawbacks of members in the gang do not benefit from any of the gang special rules except for starting skills and skill access. The gang leader may be upgraded to a weird. You get 0 to 2 Genestealer Cult Aberrants. You get 0 to 2 Abominants as well. Leaders and champions may purchase Psychic Familiars, and the prospects may be given an extra arm for 20 credits as well. No fighters with the Brute Hanger-On or Pet subtype may be purchased from the gang's list. Upgrading the leader to a weird is 35 credits, and you get a free skill for that, which is a pretty good trade-off, to be honest. So yeah, basically there's no real drawbacks there, to be honest. The fact that you can give your prospects an extra arm, and you can also, you know, think of an extra arm on a wrecker, for example, and stuff like that. An extra arm on, I don't know, there are so many options in here. It's pretty damn good. Extra arm on a haunt. I don't know, like, there you go. So overall, Genestealer Cult, as written, are one of the most broken and best gangs in the game now because of the problematic rules with the extra arm, teamed up with bulging biceps, things like that. There's a lot of room for shenanigans, and I love it, to be honest, and it's about time that Genestealer Cult were, you know, up there as being one of the more exciting gangs to play. I love the fact that they've got their own dedicated brute. I love the fact that the familiars have been recosted, and I love the fact that we've got much more customization in there as well. The weird powers are all pretty good too. Overall, flipping great gang. On to the next cult, and this is the Chaos Helots. Chaos Helots were one of the first sort of gangs released in Necromunda with, you know, extra rules, and they've got a bit of a glow up in this as well, if I'm honest. Chaos Helot gangs are a bunch of riffraff, like Cawdor, you know, like a bunch of very fanatical supporters of Chaos as opposed to the Holy Emperor. These guys are, you know, a little bit hoardy and cheap, sort of riffraff that are just really fanatical and devoted to that Chaos power. Now, the special gang rule is not really a particularly fun one. It just means that Chaos Cult gangs can perform the Chaos Ritual, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But in terms of skills across the gang, Cunning and Savant are the main sort of ones that you get, with a smattering of other for primary and secondary there as well. Now, the cult ritual that we just talked about a minute ago, basically in the sort of wrap-up step, you roll 2d6 and you apply the following modifiers: +1 if the gang won a battle in this campaign cycle, +1 if the gang's reputation went up as well, +2 if you already have the favour of the Chaos God that you're trying to worship, -2 if you have the favour of a different god, -1 if the gang lost, and -1 if you lost reputation as well. So pretty self-explanatory there. But if the result is 9 or more, the ritual is heeded and you get the patron's bonus. And we're going to look at those now. If you are in line with Khorne, known as the Blood God, once per round a single failed wound roll can be re-rolled. If you are a fan of the Plague Lord, Nurgle, once per round a single recovery roll can be re-rolled. If you are the Dark Prince, in line with the Dark Prince, then you get to, once per round during the activation phase, 2 models that are ready can be picked and activated once after the other, rather than the usual 1. Honestly, that's the best one so far, I think, just in terms of tactical stuff. And the last one, if you are the Architect of Fate follower, or Tzeentch, in other words, once per round a single hit roll can be re-rolled. Hit roll, not just ballistic skill like it used to be. It means that you can do a single hit roll in close combat as well. Honestly, they're all really, really good, aren't they? But I think I'd probably choose Slaanesh here just because it's the sexiest. Now, you've got your Chaos Cult Demagogue is your leader here. He's 130 credits. He's got 3 wounds, 2 attacks, and otherwise is basically the same as a Cawdor leader, but a lot more expensive. He's got a 5+ save, and he's got a cool of 9, so pretty cool on the cool there. The Chaos Helot Disciple is your champion. He's 95 credits, also with a 5+ save, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, and, you know, weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+. Pretty good. The Chaos Helot Witch, this is a champion, counts as your sort of super champion, really. So 2 different types of champions here. 80 credits. She is weapon skill, ballistic skill 4+, but that's not what you're taking her for. Strength, toughness 3, wounds 2, initiative 3, and attacks 1, but the willpower of 8 there. So this is a champion with a relatively higher than average willpower, ready to do those, you know, Helot weird powers. So the Helot weird powers are a primary skill set, and you get 1 for free when you hire her. It's also worth mentioning that the Hellet Witch in the new rules can take any war gear as well. So you could give a heavy weapon to a Hellet Witch, which, you know, means that you can do more shenanigans really with those weird powers. The Hellet Cultist is your ganger. They're 45 credits, and they are, again, very average, but slightly higher cool, slightly lower willpower than most gangers. Willpower 5 on a Hellet is not great, but there you go. They are also your specialist as well. So your Helots now have lots of different ways to build themselves. You can have a sniping Hellet, you can have this, that, and the other, and it's pretty nice, really. The Hellet Initiate is your Juve now, and this is great that you've got a dedicated Juve, finally, for both Genestealer Cult and for Helots. These guys are 20 credits, and they can take, you know, they're the prospects as well. Their weapon skill, ballistic skill 5. Their movement 5 as well, so they're not as fast as some Initiates, but they do have a 4 initiative as well there too. 6 up save, very nice. Chaos Familiar for 135 credits. This is your dedicated pet, and it is exactly the same as the Genestealer Cult pet. No difference whatsoever. However, there is actually a special extra rule here, because these are slightly more expensive at 135 credits. I am wrong there, sorry. You get an extra rule to be able to re-roll the weird power check on a willpower if they're with their witch as well, which is pretty damn good stacked up with the rest of the stuff that you get. They also don't have catfall. They get clamber, but not catfall. Interesting. Also, you get the Chaos Spawn as well, which is the same as your Corpse Grinder cult list. 130 credits for the Chaos Spawn, and these guys are pretty awesome too. You know, if they go out of action, they are out cold. You still need to restrain them after the game, and their stats are random. So if you roll 6s, you'll get a good spawn. If you roll 1s, you'll get a shit spawn. It really is that simple. The Chaos Helot sort of war gear list is pretty minimal as well, similar to the sort of scum list that you get on an Outcast list. So only las guns, auto guns. Oh, you do get Warpstorm bolters though, which is new. 65 credits for a Warpstorm bolter. Very, very nice. Anything new here? Refractor fields are on there. We've got infrasights, monocytes, and dirt bikes as well. So you could have a dirt bike gang of Chaos Helots, which I really, really like the idea of. Chain glaives are so far fairly unique to Helots as well. They are +1 strength, -1 AP, 2 lethality, parry, and shred 6+ as well with heavy and unwieldy. In terms of the cult weird powers that you get to choose from here as well, there are Scouring, which is basically a cheap flamer with strength 2. We've got Levitation, continuous effect, which allows you to fly. We've got Warp Strength, and we've got Maddening Visions, Warp Shield, and Assail as well, which are pretty similar to how they were before. Again, though, all decent choices, really. And you can also have Chaos Corrupted gangs, of course. So the same thing with Genestealer Cult gangs. You can now have Chaos Corrupted gangs. And in this instance, again, it is the 6 clan houses along with Palanite Enforcers that can be Chaos Corrupted only. So you can't have Chaos Corrupted Spirers, for example. Don't even think about it. Now, the benefits and drawbacks of being a Chaos Corrupted house gang or enforcer gang is that you do not benefit from any of the gang's skills anymore. The gang must select one of the Chaos Gods to be their patron. The gang may perform both the lead ritual and ritual focus post-cycle action as well. Chaos Helot Witches may be added to the gang roster. No limit on those as well. 0-1 Chaos Spawn, and leaders and champions may purchase Chaos Familiars too. No fighters with the Brute, Hanger-On, or Pet subtype may be purchased for the gang's list. I mean, basically, the drawbacks are minimal for a Chaos Corrupted gang. You get you get the immediate favor of one of the 4 gods. You don't have to do anything to gain it, unlike the Chaos main gang, which is a bit weird. You have to actually pray to get one in the first instance. With a Corrupted gang, you're already in favor of that god, and you can still do those rituals on top as well. But yeah, any gang with witches and spawn is pretty damn good, really, right? So there you have it, guys. 4 of the gangs from the Outlands here in the new Necromunda. What do you think the winners and losers out of these 4 are? Personally, I think the Chaos Helot gangs and the Genestealer Cult gangs are right up there as some of the better gangs in the game now. Absolutely love them, and I can't wait to play them too. That's it for now anyway. I'm going to move on to the second half of this book and the 4th part of this series, so stay tuned for more in the Gangs of the Outlands. Thanks for watching.